Is that art? Welcome to the podcast, everybody. We've got this amazing guest with us, Hannah. Do you prefer Hannah-Jayne, HJ, Hannah?
It's what Hannah-Jayne is my normal one, but I will answer to the majority of things. So whatever works. HJ or Hannah-Jayne is brilliant.
Yeah, you should hear what he calls me.
Yeah, that's probably got something to do with your mental health, hasn't it? Right. So we're going to chat through what you do in a bit, but I'd like you to just give us a brief introduction to who you are, what you do, on a professional level, and what your passions are, really.
Sure. So I have two main jobs, and how we know each other, Simon, is I'm an art and community manager for a company that hosts a dedicated and bespoke gallery space in a restaurant in both Bristol and Cardiff. And we really, really love connecting with the community in our food, and we thought we'd take that to art as well and create a community space for local artists to showcase their work in a setting that is, not just hanging up in the wall, not just a cheap fit out for us, but for a real celebration of art in the community that reflects the community and that kind of together element that art can bring, while you have some incredibly locally sourced food, incredible locally sourced food as well. And so I'm the art curator for that, and that's how we met, and that's how what I love to do. But I also run my own business. I'm the founder of Wellbeing Done Well, who takes a proactive approach in corporate and community settings to support mental health. And I have my signature work, which is through writing, so creative writing as an element to access our emotions and to really get to know ourselves. This isn't a place for being rock bottom. This is a place for discovery and proactivity and understanding that our mind is so important to be looked after. Yeah. And I go to big companies like Amazon, to people that are just sat at home that want to join in the community. So it's a huge range of people, and I offer my services from a lived-in experience and from degree level, and I'm a professional writer as well, and I combine those things together and create courses that facilitate some sort of well-being within that.
Wow, amazing! It sounds really cool. Yeah. It sounds amazing. So kind of beginning with the gallery curation side of things. So obviously, we met with when I 10 years ago, wasn't it? When 10 years ago. When I created the Alice in Wonderland booth for the Stake of the Art Bristol.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to sort of see the idea of a gallery being combined with a restaurant, and the I suppose the attitudes towards that. I've been fascinated to know how have people found it and how have people reacted to it being those two things at once. I mean, do people seem to take it well, and how does it differ from a sort of high street gallery?
Brilliant. Yeah, so I think it's always well received, but it is very different in, like you said, in comparative to how an art gallery would be perceived on the market as a sole art gallery. And you can definitely see that as someone that studied art myself, not art. Well, I studied an arts degree. It was performance and writing, joint honours. But within that, we did so much actual art, as I'm sure you know, it kind of overlaps in principle as well. So from someone that has a very big art background, in particular art galleries, you can see a difference. It is seen more as like a unique selling point within the restaurant. Certainly the restaurant comes first. People definitely come here to eat, and so you can lend itself to the idea of being a very nice gimmick to the side of this incredible restaurant. So it already has that different feel. But what is wonderful and what I'm so passionate about is when these people are coming in for a meal to see it's called Steak of the Art. So it's a steak restaurant with an art gallery. And it's these people that wouldn't never normally step foot in an art gallery. And what I'm really, really passionate about within mental health, within art, within everything I do, is bringing that inclusivity to everyone and to trying to access a world that is so alien to so many people. Art is, there might be a pretense, there might be felt a pretense about it, or an inaccessibility about it, or an idea that the amount of people that I've taken to art galleries and they're like, I don't get it.
Yes.
I don't get it. And they throw their hands up, and especially the art that I love, it's very minimal, it's very, there's a lot of postmodern artwork that I love, and there's a lot of things like Tracy Emin, that's like a big name that we can relate to. I absolutely adore her work, and if you show them the bed, if you show them like what the kind of things that she did, the installations, it's just gone over their heads. And the idea of taking that into a space where you're kind of confronted with it, and it's, you know, it's not very conceptual art. There's not an awful lot of postmodern stuff. It's quite, you know, I call it a generic. The work that is in there is quite generic. So things like beautiful sunsets, all beautiful in their own right. So it's kind of like a really beautiful way of slowly transitioning people into the world of art. And that's what I'm really passionate about, and that's what I really love, because art is for everyone. But if you tell someone to get to an art gallery, one, they probably won't know where one is anymore, because it just doesn't seem part of the culture unless you're really involved in it. And what Seek the Art do beautifully is they bring that to everybody that's coming in to have a meal. So you might see some absolutely massive Bristolian born and bred bloke go to have we're talking very stereotypically here, like sit down, have a steak, and like, someone waiting for his food. He'll go in and see all these beautiful depictions of the suspension bridge, perhaps near where he grew up, and they might spark a conversation there. So it gives an added element to their food experience, immersing themselves in the local community, but also I really just enjoy that accessibility that it brings. But that is the difference between I also curate very differently to a high street art gallery to an in situ in a restaurant. It's a lot more accessible. It's a lot more generic, and I will say the word literal, because all these artworks are sensational. I'm not saying that they're any less or any more. It's all neutral for me. But what I'm suggesting is that it's a more literal picture rather than these abstract pieces that can come about. I hope that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense, because it's that sort of inclusivity is very often completely overlooked when you approach it from a viewpoint where, as you say, because I remember I got people, you know, I'd be speaking to people about various different types of artwork and things like that, and you get the people who just haven't grown up around art at all, who I found it very interesting what you said earlier on when you was talking about what you did as sort of performance art and creative writing, and then you said it wasn't really arty art, and that was quite kind of interesting to me, because it's trying to teach people to understand that art is a very broad spectrum, and
it's everywhere.
And this is it. It's that expression of what's inside somebody, and to confine that to paintings that are representative of something, realism, all of those things that your person that hasn't really had any involvement with the art world and the creative world at all, to be able to understand something as conceptual as the unmade bed, but I think with things like that, I think it's really important to go to. I've always said to people, art is like a language, and if you don't understand the language, it doesn't invalidate it. It just means that you're not on that same wavelength. I'm not going to go to Italy and sit down in a coffee shop and expect to understand everything that's said to me. but
you get if you sit with an open mind, you can get a richness from it, and it's that open mind that's valuable. And I just it's also when you talk about like the accessibility, there is nothing more artist-like than sitting and watching a chef, especially someone as passionate as our head chef, and work through this art process of cooking and wanting to develop ideas and wanting to showcase them. It's quite often reminds me of clay work or something, or perhaps something working with wood, where it's so hands-on and it brings so many parallels. And at the same time, he's my friend as well, if I took him to an art gallery, he'd be like, nope, I'm not but I'd be like, you make art every single day. I see it. It's a process. It's so broad, as you said.
Well, like, you used to be a chef, didn't you?
Yeah. Watching chefs just brings back PTSD, to be honest.
This is one of the things I was going to ask. So, obviously you can't be in two places at once, and you're not full-time in the restaurant. You're sort of being there as someone. Do you have... it's largely kind of self-directed, people wandering around the gallery, isn't it? And how do you find that, and how do you find the approach to it? And do you have... Are the staff, I say trained, are the staff kind of there and knowledgeable about some of the artists to be able to go, oh, well, this is somebody local and they do this kind of artwork and this is what they're expressing with this? Or is it very, very self-directed?
It's incredibly self-directed. There is one guy at work that just sells all the paintings, so I think lovely Jamie, and he tends to get the most sales. I wonder if his presence is just accessible for that kind of thing, or whether he's the right time, right place. But I think there are steps that he hits particularly well, whereas that is trained, but it's on a very, very not thrown down their throat situation. So upon entrance, they'll say the gallery is to the right. There are some new works if you want to see. So it's signposting. Now, what we to do, and I don't see an awful lot now. As you train. As people move on, things do get forgotten and changed, and we do need to re-implement these steps. But they used to lead people through the gallery to their table.
Right.
But also, what happens a lot of the time, quite naturally, is because our hosts have said at the beginning of the evening, there's a gallery to the right. What they'll see is naturally people will want to walk through the gallery once they've had their meal. It's very organic, it's very natural, because we do not want to be a place where they're worried to come for dinner because they don't want the art.
Yes.
The art is beautiful to look at, but they don't want it. And what's very dangerous or important for us is to acknowledge that danger of forced selling, which is not what we want to do. We just want to enhance someone's dining experience and connection with local environment, and to immerse themselves in something that perhaps they wouldn't have done before, or maybe they do and they enjoy that. So it's all very naturally led. They're not trained in the art specifically. There's a few artists that I have blurbs next to explain their story because I find it interesting, and that then the artist, the client can read themselves. But I am there part-time, and I work a lot from home since having a baby, which is fantastic for me to remain in that job role. But it does mean that if a ticket gets lost or damaged or broken, because you can get 1,000 people a week in footfall, I'm not there to pick it up. Things get lost and you can lose it, lose your way a bit there. So there's definitely ways in improving the way that I operate my gallery situation, but to answer your question directly, it's incredibly self-led on their part because we want it to be a benefit to their experience and not a cold sell. And also, if we think back to our first point of we're getting people in that feel that a lot of people wouldn't even step foot in a gallery. If I'm then pushing that on them, that's going to cause a really different reaction for art. So we're taking it on a very chill approach, but I would say the majority of people are coming in to look at the art on their way out.
That's really
and
good.
It's also quite beautiful for the children when they can't sit at the table, they come and play in that area, and I find that even more so as a mother very, very important to see.
No, that's brilliant. That's really, really good. And
it's like the whole having like artwork in a restaurant thing it's quite common, really, but I don't think the majority of restaurants in the UK do it well. I've presented work, my work in restaurants before, and it's always just swung
on the wall, isn't it? It's just on the wall.
Like,
there's no gallery space.
There's like 4 tables that can see it. And people don't want to walk around a restaurant while people are eating and like stood right next to their table.
Yeah, quite.
Because I know I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't either.
And it's like, I've not been to Stake of the Art yet, but from what Si's told me, and it's like it's got its own like designated area. I feel it's just such a great way of going. It's like an extension of their experience, and I think that is really good. It's something that the Americans do very well, and we don't.
It's lovely, and also the thing that Simon created for us, which is my favourite booth. I'm always like, do you want to see my favourite booth? Because I will show you. And I had so many happy memories there with my family dining there as well. So thank you, Simon. It's such a treat, and every time I sit in there, it's just something new and something beautiful. But when you're sat in something as beautiful as that, like Simon did, and we've got 5 booths, and they're all created differently from different with different concepts. And when you're immersed in that, when it's an immersive experience, it's just wonderful. It's incredibly magical, and there's like the one that you created, Simon, there's this element of play, and I think element of play and wonder that art can bring to add up. In particular, when life is so hard. Recently I was just like, why did life get so hard and serious and difficult? A few things that I've been through in my personal life, grieving after my father, having my baby, the pandemic, having to be responsible for a home, all of these things. And where is that sense of play and wonder that I can tap into? And quite often it's in these accessible art points, and to be literally sat in that, to create tables within art is quite wonderful for my work, I have to say.
That's brilliant. Joe, one of the things as an artist, I've kind of almost fought against myself on this. I have this real kind of tension almost with, if I'm trying to, what am I trying to do? Am I trying to get accepted by the art world? the Tarquins, the gallery owners with berets and scarves, and am I trying to get sort of into that sort of little exclusive world, and do I have to become more conceptual and things like this? But what's really nice is when it comes down to it, when I think about my own creativity and my path to creating something that makes me happy, I love play, I love characters, children's books, and all of those sorts of happy memories that I had of losing myself in a little world actually switches me on far more than trying to become a conceptual artist that is going to get noticed by the Tate or what. Do you know what I mean? And you have this. It's this insecurity in me that's like, I'm not successful as an artist until I've exhibited here, or I've been nominated for the Turner Prize, or all of that, all of those things that really kind of niggle away at you sometimes, and I've quite often had this internal struggle, to be honest.
Yeah,
I bet.
See, I'm the opposite, because my personal work, it's fucking weird. But like when I'm here, I can just create, and I'm not that embarrassed to show people what I'm doing, and it's like, it actually makes me feel quite good.
Yeah. Have you seen? You've not seen Paul's paintings, have you?
No. Oh, Paul, yeah. Paul, did you send me an email?
Yeah, I sent you all the weird burger characters that I did ages ago. It was when I was.
I have, yeah.
Yeah.
Send us some of the more recent ones you did.
Because I was
done some quite big canvases now. It's line art in. Well, it's not line art. You can probably explain it better.
Yeah. The acrylic work I did. It was like trying to make it look like a print, so really flat. It was almost like a cartoon world, but like I'd paint like surf shops and stuff like that, the interior, and it was just like painted it so flat. It's a blag to do, because trying to make everything so opaque is just it took ages. But I'll send some stuff over. I think
lovely.
The stuff I sent you the first time, I just kind of started out doing digital work, and I'd sent it, and you went,
it was very bright, wasn't it? Wasn't it very bright?
Yeah.
I loved it.
Very pop arty.
Pop, yeah.
But like, I sent you, and you went, oh yeah, send us some prints, and then I just lost all faith in what I was doing. I was like, I can't send that. I was like, no one will like it.
There is this idea. I'm hearing a lot from both of you, and also obviously this is what I do when I work with artists. Is I hear this every single time, and there's this. I'm so interested in growing up in a world that does not fade. If we look at the systems in place from birth, where government funding is cutting all of the arts even more so, but you can see it slowly deteriorate because they are not important, quote unquote, because we need maths, we need science, we need English, we need doctors, we need lawyers, we need those very crucial, important jobs. And I'm not putting anyone against anyone here, because I strongly believe that they are so important as well. But art is fucking am I allowed to swear?
Oh yeah. Trust me, you're allowed to swear.
It's absolutely vital. They bleed so much into the art world, and we can learn so much from one another. And what I see within artists is this idea that is born within us, that from school, we can't do art club today because Miss has to go do English. Not even English is being fired up, but you have to go do maths now, so you can do maths now. And so when we're seeing this from a very young age, because we remember we're a product of our environment, when we're starting to access this, and then so it's not important at school, and then you go home and maybe you're a low-income family household who doesn't have the ability to dream or to sit and think about artwork. They've just got to go out and pay the bills. And yet that's getting more and more and more. So you're just seeing work, and you're just seeing money come in because there is no space for dreaming or playing or relaxing. And then you're going into this more and more and more. So what space do we have left when life is very hard, and when we're being governed to cut back on all of these things? Where is the space to then celebrate art is incredibly important, so that if you do find your calling in art, all of a sudden you're an adult going, I've lost all faith, or this isn't right, or this isn't good enough, because all of your fucking life you've been told that you are not important. And when I created my business, I tell you, like, I'm a single parent with a disabled daughter, single income, and I took on Amazon all by myself, the largest company in the world, and still I'm like, Well, is my voice like the only thing that's keeping me back? Even though I can achieve these things all by myself, the only thing that's keeping me back is my own narrative of, well, what do you give? Like, is it constant? Is this enough? Like, the creativity. How can you sell this to the big dogs? Like, like you're always trying to prove yourself constantly, and you see it all the time in art and artists. And the only way it works. And this is a testament to your work as well, Simon. I'm sure yours as well, Paul. I haven't seen enough. I certainly know Simon's work is when you tap into what you actually love to do. That's when you start to elevate. Yeah. I do my work, my workshops, all my wellbeing stuff is 100% what works for me. It's a no bullshit. There's no woolly stuff. There's no crystals, no tarot cards. That's all great if you like it, but it's very forward. It's very exact. It taps into it and it flies. It absolutely flies. If I try to be something else, I'm going to fail. And you can see that within your work as well, Simon. You can see that play element. You can see what sets your heart on fire. And that's when everyone's obsessed with your work. Like, by far the best booth. Like, everyone loves it.
Yeah.
Because it just creates that within themselves, you know?
That's really encouraging to hear, to be honest. It's a really, I mean, it's obviously we've led into the well-being now, and this is a really good kind of this connection between trying to encourage art and trying to, because obviously it's, as you say, it's very difficult to encourage art in schools, and because it's the education system just isn't geared towards it.
No,
but.
And can I say, before we move on, I went to a school visit just the other day, just for my daughter's school. They're all iPad learning based now, and I was like, do they hold pens and pencils? And I was just, so I'm scared. I'm scared. Yeah. We can continue down this trajectory, but just as something that absolutely shocked me, I was like, shit.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, I've been curious of what schools are like now, because when I was at school, I was constantly told, "Oh yeah, you're good at art. You can't count and you can't spell, but like this is really good. But there's no jobs." That was drilled into me that you might as well go into retail.
Yeah.
I kind of went against the grain and did a music degree that I've never used, but so yeah, they were kind of right. But it's like, that was, you're talking in the 90s then, and I want to know what the difference is now, because we're being constantly told how bad the creative sector in education is now.
Yeah,
so I can't imagine it being worse than when I was at school.
I think as far as I'm aware, because I mean, again, I've the experience I've had with schools is I was part of a program where they had local entrepreneurs go into schools and talk about what it was like to run a business, and trying to encourage kids that you don't have to go and work for somebody. There's these opportunities to start your own business doing something you love, and that was brilliant. So I didn't really see the sort of general curriculum side of things at all. But from what I do understand, the only real sort of opportunities in art are happening in the upper class end of schools, and the privileged background end of things, where we're not going to go into mentioning Tories anymore, so sorry, but
start again.
So
going into rant mode.
No, I'm not going to start a big rant about this, because I'm quite passionate about this, but with this sort of exclusivity almost, because if you're going to be an artist, you can't possibly make money from it straight away, so you have to have some money behind you. You need capital. You need to pay for the prints, or you need to come up with a mad concept and just pay somebody else to create it. Yeah. So this whole kind of aspect of art being, and I was really encouraged. Read an article yesterday, the recent Turner Prize winner. So he's just won it, and actually one of the main things he mentioned was he's created this dystopian scene, basically, where pedestrian barriers have grown legs and they're running around, and that you've got like, it's a dystopian future. It's based on the state of Britain, basically. Okay. And it's really interesting to look at. But one of his things was he wants to hammer home to schools and to young artists that art is for everybody, and it isn't something that should be exclusive. And I was like, oh, go for it, man. Yeah, I like that. I really like that. And just... it's so important to kind of retain that play element, as you say.
Yeah, it's crucial to well-being. It's like fundamental, and we're getting children, to relate it back to the well-being again. We're getting children unprecedented amounts of mental health. It's the numbers have quadrupled between the numbers are scary and they're abhorrent. The CAMs are so under stress, like you cannot get support. Even if your child is at crisis point, they have to wait days to be seen. There's blood on people's hands. People are losing lives from such a young age, and they're not even thinking about all these cuts of creativity. They're not even putting two and two together. Because with creativity is this element of self-discovery, catharsis, is that a word? Like that nature of calm. It is now. And that self-expression and that knowledge of others is because the world is so internalized now. It's so me, and we need to use this empathy to create another world, and just this play through using our hands through different mediums, and also, I'm not very good at it, or I'm not very good at it. And this is huge, because I recently did a block of art therapy that I was put forward to on the NHS to support my process of dealing with a high disabled needs child that I have, and with all the joy and respect that she gives me, all of the lessons that she teaches me, the grief of having a child that does not hit what you were told would hit, it's not what you thought would happen for all of your life, hit me incredibly hard as a mother, and all of the additional things that you need to go through. And I chose art therapy because, quote unquote, physical art making, I'm fucking awful at, right? So I love curating, I love looking at it, I love critiquing it, and I love writing. But I do not have any ego or any confidence in creating art. And I took this 12-week course of art therapy, and it fucking changed my life.
Wow.
And I was making stuff that you would put 7-year-olds would be like, okay, let's try and do this again. It was absolutely wild what I was doing. Like, just the idea of punching play as I was being angry, the idea of ripping up words and putting it in a collage and speaking through my grief, I was absolutely transformative.
That's amazing.
So for well-being, it's imperative, and we can just see we can see what's happening, but we're not connecting the dots because art is just seen as some fluffy, lovely side project.
I'd love to kind of, it's one of those things where you really feel helpless, don't you, as to the system is like, how can I change this? How can I change this? Other than just talking about it and hoping people will listen, and that's something, we've, one of the reasons we started this podcast was to kind of get talking about creativity in general and asking those questions of, is that art? What is art? What is creativity, and how does it apply to you, regardless of how you think, what you think your level is, if you know what I mean? And we always think in levels. we always put ourselves somewhere on a scale of, oh, I'm really crap, or what I'm producing isn't what is perhaps themed or good enough, or it's and sometimes you have an image in your head, and what you can get out on paper isn't what you can see in your head. But it's what the important bit is that process of actually creating. And it almost does not matter what the outcome is.
Oh, no. Yeah.
It's that process of doing it, isn't it? And
it's the actual thought process in the first place that tends to be very important, like conceptual art.
Yes.
It's the whole theory behind it that is like, because I did avant-garde music at uni, which was not playing music, basically. Like I was a percussionist, didn't play drums for 2 years. I threw spoons at a piano.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I got good grades because I was able to, not proud of it, but I just woke up hungover and made some shit up. But I was very convincing.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it just shows the theory behind it is sometimes a lot more important than the actual craft itself. Like, you see some artworks and you think, it's a bit shit, that. But then you hear the reasoning behind it and you go, bloody hell, that's amazing. It's like when we did the stuff on Sylvester Stallone, we were both like, it's a bit crap, that. And then we started looking more into it and we were like,
actually,
I really like it.
The more we looked into it, the more it won us over. And we were like, I can see where he's going with that.
And also the idea of what does it mean to the individual is subjective, right?
Yes.
So someone might, that's what I love about art, and what I learned quickly as a curator is stop putting stuff you love in the art gallery, HG, because it's not going to fucking sell. Stop. There was a joke at one point that I would be like, anything that hasn't sold is what I want to put in my wall. It's just, and there was some absolute, there was some pieces that, we could go into commercial art, which I find difficult on a moral grounding, because I've spoken to people that are just like, it's just Google images and then I've put some resin over the top. So there is that element of no thought process. But when you can, I don't know, it can be anything. I worked in a prison. I worked in a prison and I worked one-to-one with a murderer, and I got him to do some colouring in. And I went, is this ridiculous? I just called the yellow. I was like, is this absolutely stupid? Am I making you feel absolutely ridiculous here? And he was like, oh no, miss, don't worry, I do colouring in all the time. So
Wow.
I was like, fuck, thank God, there must have been an art therapist before I came.
Nice. Wow.
But there was even just the act of colouring in enables the mind to focus elsewhere. It's a process. You're not getting anywhere. The picture's been done for you. It's incredibly basic. Thick black lines, and you just needed to colour in whatever colour he wanted. And it was this idea of mind being taken out of inner thought, being put into a process, like you said.
Yeah.
And that's where the cathartic element lies. Those strokes on the page, so that you then feel comfortable to access something else.
Yeah.
And we don't know what that something else will ever be until we try.
Yes.
But it's that process that is directly linked to the well-being, I believe.
Yeah. It's interesting, like you were saying, like there's more and more people coming out having mental health issues, and it is escalating now. And recent times, the whole colouring book thing has become it's huge. Like my mum does it, and she spends hours doing it, and it's like, I wonder if that is coinciding.
I think so. I mean, I think until people try it, it's very easy to dismiss it.
Yeah.
And
of course, it's a kid's thing. It's
exactly.
That's why I said, am I making you feel like an idiot? Am I being condescending? Am I, tell me where your boundaries are here, so that because of course you're gonna. I'm not going to get the men in my life to do some colouring in, you know. So, like the 45-year-old like friends that I have, like they're not going to, you know.
I'm 37 and I still like playing with Lego, so it's like.
But you're not. There's an accessibility.
It's like every time I go past the Lego shop in Liverpool, like I turn into a 10-year-old, and I was surprised when a therapist said to me at the beginning of this year, "Do you reckon you're autistic?" And I was like, "Shit, it all makes sense now."
Yeah.
The Lego makes sense.
Yeah, everything makes sense.
Yeah. It does, to be fair, and it's
I'm a massive child.
Yeah.
But there's 6'1" child.
There's nothing wrong with that, though. At the end of the day, it's like what we've come up with in the workshop.
Yeah.
With, you know, for this project I'm doing at the moment, it's a fire-breathing dragon installed in the middle of a pond. So I've had to work out all the electronics for it to make the propane ignite at the right time. So it's, you know, he's got a remote control that makes it breathe fire. But it ended up being, so I said to the guy, he wanted some sound in the garden as well. And what we ended up doing, I can't even remember how it came about, but the situation was, I said, oh, you could have a kind of atmospheric soundscape that you can press play on, and it kind of gives you this atmospheric soundscape that sits with the dragon, that gives an atmosphere to this dragon installation. And we ended up, initially I thought, oh yeah, I'll just do it electronically. I'll use samples. I'll create some loops and have some, ethereal sounds. Yeah. And what ended up happening was you went and suggested, oh, we could use some of the bits and pieces around the farm and the workshop to create sounds. Yeah. And we ended up doing that, and we ended up building a musical instrument that's based on a hurdy-gurdy.
And just to add, I had quite a big mental breakdown this year. Like, it was mental.
Yeah.
And when I came back to work, the first thing I did was make a fucking hurdy-gurdy. And it was like, even at that point, I took a stand back and went, what the fuck are we doing? I'm there turning this massive wheel.
I'll send you the whole thing. I'll send you some videos and bits and pieces. But it was... so I ended up writing a story that went over the top of that as well. So that's been narrated, and we've got it all. It's become a mega sort of multimedia installation, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been like one of the best projects ever.
Yeah,
it's just because you don't have time to think about it.
No,
in a weird way, it's just like I've kind of just enjoyed the creative side of it rather than ting of. What I couldn't give a shit what people thought.
no, quite. But it's as I say, it's that act of doing something completely off the wall.
Yeah.
That's right.
We're lucky enough to get paid for, which is even better.
That's the sweet spot.
But that some of the time it's been a real ball ache to try and get things going, and trying to do the bits which don't excite me that much, like the electronics side of things, and getting that working, and hasn't been as good. But it's the overall image and a feel of it once it's in place that makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, I came up with the great idea to make the wings out of slats, so like little square paper thin slats, and it sounded really good until I had to cut them. And it took me 5 days, and it was like me and my mates were on a train, and they were all like going through the help app on the iPhone, and we were going back in time to like what steps they'd done. Everyone was like, oh, I did like 10,000 steps in work. The week I was doing them, there was one day I did 90 steps because I was just stood in front of the belt stand and just
oh dear.
There's that element of if we're looking at this evolution of digital world that we're coming into, when we come back to especially woodwork, I had a friend who I was incredibly close with who was a carpenter, and when I was allowed into his studio, and I helped him on a project. The calm of working with wood grain that I'd never done before, never had any experience of, was absolutely incredible. And there's something that we're losing in the steps. There's kind of like self-purpose and self-importance that is being lost when we're pressing buttons and getting things to be done for us.
Yeah.
And there's connection that is lost, which is all interwebbed and interlinked with our creativity.
Yeah.
For example, whenever I go to a supermarket, even though there's all those horrible electronic checkout tills where I could do it myself, if there is someone there, I will go to that person, because speaking to someone and connecting to someone I know is far more important than getting my rice and coriander through 30 seconds quicker on the till to then not work and have to call someone over and get angry with it anyway.
Yes.
I would prefer to go to that person. And what creativity does is it leaves you no choice but to think about connection, not with ourselves, but with other people, or maybe in collaborative spaces like you do when you have big projects working together, but also using physical things with our hands, which is an incredibly important thing. We have not evolved very far. We are not much different. It's just our surroundings that are different to when we were cave people. And when we were cave people, we needed to use our hands. We needed to use the elements around us, and it's crucial for our well-being because our brains have not evolved that. We still need that, but we've been placed into a digital displacement, which is creating havoc for our minds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'd quite like to know a little bit more about what you do for people and how you do it. So do you run workshops? Do you do one-to-one sessions? What's the sort of...
My platform is running workshops, lectures, and I am public speaking, and I get, like I said, if we take the corporate idea, for example, I'm just coming to the end of a year-long contract with a huge firm who has me in bi-monthly, so every other month, for an hour, and their team of 150 people can log on to Zoom, and I create for them a bespoke 1 hour writing workshop. And this writing workshop is a hybrid blend that I've created, and I create every time, and I create my own exercises for every single workshop I do. So they're created by me specifically, with them in mind, with their pressures in mind, and I work through a hybrid blend of creative writing, because I believe in the creative element for our well-being, and the journaling element, which is a self-reflective answering question element. So the creative element brings a sense of otherness and connection, and what can we get from other people, and that creativity is so vital, as we've been talking about for the past half hour, and also then the self-reflection of what journaling can bring. So I ask questions, open-ended questions of philosophical nature, that are accessible for them to sit back and for just a second, for just a minute of their very busy day. When I work with corporates, I really have to empathise. Their level of freedom is so different to that of a creative or that of a freelancer. They are so stuck to their desk. The irony is they want to support their well-being, but half of them can't even get to my workshops because they're so busy. So busy by someone else's watch. It's very different as a freelancer. I can see that if I need to reflect in the garden with a cup of tea, I can go do that. They're on Zoom meetings, and they need to be on Zoom meetings, and it's just a very different way of working. And I have to empathise with that greatly, and I have to make it accessible. So for just a moment, I ask them to think about themselves, the elements within them. Journaling is proven to be like a number one tool for your well-being. Any therapist will tell you to do it. It's pretty much free unless you ask me to facilitate it. Then there's a cost, because I'll get a lot more out of you just writing. So that's where the cost comes in. But if you did just want to write every day just what happened, just as a journal entry, it's a huge tick for your well-being. I don't know anyone that it hasn't benefited from. And I curate these workshops And in my community work, I do them weekly on Zoom for people at a much lower price point to be accessible, for people to access all over the world. And I do in-person supper clubs. Just recently had my supper club, so they eat dinner and do a workshop with me. And there are so many of them say, I'm not a creative. And it's so interesting how I've had to market this.
Yes.
You just need to fucking write. And I cannot write for you because I am not you. All of the answers are within you, and when you write it down, this element of storytelling, it gives an element of reflection, which supports our well-being, what we want, the steps we need, listening to our voice, and then that touch of creativity that I bring in as well, sneakily, kind of like getting vegetables into a kid's dinner. I know you don't say you're creative, but here's a poem.
Yeah.
I know it makes sense to you, but what could you get from that? And I always break that silence with, this poem, I don't fucking know what it means, but let's try and work it out together. What does that word soft light, what does that bring back in my memory? How does that make me feel? You know, and it's that education and that learning that I bring to people, both in corporate settings, which I'm very passionate about, because my father was in a very corporate setting, and I saw it from a very young age of how can we bring what I know and what I've studied into the world. I don't like the polarity and the divisive nature of corporate versus community. I can't stand it. I can't stand the way people curl their toes when I say I work for corporates because you're supposed to be charity. I can't stand it when I'm in corporates, people think that I'm just fluffy. I'm getting hit at every angle. And what I really love to do in my business is to cut through that and say, this is for everyone. Let's go. Yeah. Trust me, I'm a social chameleon. I'll work with you. Let me make this accessible to you. And I take great fucking pride in that.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Journaling, I have to be honest, journaling scares the hell out of me because it's almost like I don't really want to know what's inside me. I don't want to know what's in my head. I'd rather draw it.
See, I was very different. I've just done a batch of counselling, and I've done it before, and every time they start writing a journal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I always forget, after I've finished the counselling, it kind of fades out. It is quite important for someone like me, for someone to go, you need to do this. Yeah.
And the accountability of a session, that's what I found. Everyone comes back for the accountability.
Because, I start panicking about, because I'm not very good at spelling and stuff like that. And when there's not someone kind of prodding me with a stick to do it, I sit there thinking, I'm not going to write that because it'll be unreadable. And that's not the point.
No, this is it. It doesn't need to be readable, does it?
But when I actually do it, when I actually do it, I'm like, oh God, that works.
I had someone in my class who will remain anonymous, but their story, it brought me to absolute floods of tears. They filmed it for me. They're a GP and dyslexic and had no confidence and just took a leap of faith with these online weekly workshops that I did. And cut a long story short, she's been with me for 2 years maybe, and she ended up public speaking, creating a story for a conference for marginalised communities, I think, in GP practice. Wrote the story, read the story aloud, filmed it for me and said, this is an off-cut of your workshops. I couldn't do it without you. And there's this element of that accountability and that trying to elevate you and to build this confidence into doing something that you didn't think was for you. It's all part and parcel of it.
That's amazing. That's really cool. And it must be so rewarding for you when you see that actual change happening. Because I know with it's not quite on the same level, but when seeing a client's response and reaction to what I create for them, is that that's
Yes.
that for me. And it's you get
It's payment, right? It's
yeah,
payment.
exactly.
It's literally payment.
You get some which are completely unreadable, which makes it really difficult.
Yeah.
And then some where they're like, oh, this means so much to me, and those I get more satisfaction out of those than actually some of the a lot of my clients are at the sort of wealthy end of the spectrum, and sometimes it doesn't mean as much to them because there isn't that investment. And it's when there's that emotional investment and personal investment in something where it just means so much more to that person than just buying a sculpture to go in the garden. Do you know what I mean? So there's, and it's not cut and dried. The wealthy people are heartless and emotionless, not at all. Because I've got some very, very really super clients who absolutely love my work, and it means a lot to them. But the it's just that makes it all worthwhile for me.
Yeah,
and
I think it's part of what's wrong with modern culture is that we're so detached from that side of it. Everything's about making a profit. And
yes,
I used to be the same. Like, I chased jobs that would pay me well. I was crap at them, but that was my main focus for years. And I didn't start feeling more myself till I went, you know what, fuck it, I don't care about the cash. And it's like, it should be about the product and how that makes people feel.
Yeah.
And the cash is a way to keep doing it.
Yeah.
That's the way things should be.
And this is it. It's important to. I mean, it's all down to kind of what makes you happy, and if I've been super blessed to be able to do what I do and make a living from it, and
that's what I believe too.
Employ him, and and the fact that I can give somebody a job actually is really rewarding for me.
I mean, you don't have to grit your teeth when you say it.
And it's we have roller coaster years sometimes. It's feast or famine sometimes. We're right now we're looking very, very shy on work for the new year, but this is why I've been kind of I want to get more creative, do some paintings, and try and sell some paintings, and I've managed to. And what I mean, just going back to what you were saying earlier, sometimes it's the paintings that made me more happy this month were doing the figurative work, because I love that, but I know that doesn't sell as well as the cutesy animals.
So you gave me the cutesy animals.
Yes, that's just life, isn't it? And at the end of the day, it doesn't make me not enjoy painting cutesy animals because I love animals, but it's getting that balance and going, actually, do you know what, I need to do something off the wall that I know is not going to be a very saleable item. And I used to use the competitions to do that. So you have this kind of internal conflict of, I need to be commercially thinking enough to be able to make a living, but equally allow myself that creativity to do something that makes me really happy.
And allowing yourself time.
Yes.
I am exactly the same. Running a business is wild. Absolutely wild, the biggest learning curve ever. But if people saw the process of how I create these workshops that people come back to every single week for 3 years, and dial in from Australia in English time zones because they need to access it, all these things that happen.
Wow.
And I hold great responsibility and confidence in that. But if they saw the process, I have to allow myself to lie on the floor
and see what comes, and stare at the ceiling and create something for myself, because without that I cannot give to others. So it's this balance of making sure that you're profitable, of churning out something, but allowing yourself the space to make that creative thing work, which is be creative yourself, or accessing time and space and play and all of these things that are, if my well-being deteriorates or goes, I don't have a business. And it's all intrinsically linked, and we need to start thinking about this. Even if we don't have a creative business, we need to start thinking about, yes, you do have to make money. I'm not going to sit here and just say go play with Play-Doh. I'm fully aware of like how we operate in our world. But it's this balance of doing something for ourselves, creating space for ourselves to play, while creating meaning within our work, within trying to make a living, and trying to get that balance. And like you said, Simon, and I really relate to it. It's such a privilege to be able to make a living out of something that is creative, because my career as an officer at 14, I wanted to be an actor. And they said, okay, well, that's not going to happen, so you need to think about something else. And I mean, sure, I didn't get the Hermione role that I auditioned for. I wasn't Hermione in the end, like, I guess she had some legs to stand on, but how fucking dare you? And if I ever see another adult tell a child that their dreams are not worthy, because right now I'm earning a brilliant living for me and my daughter, doing something creative that is hidden in a mask of well-being, that elevates people's lives. And when you get that, there is no better blessing, but it's trying to work out that balance of everything. That's
amazing. So kind of sort of rounding up, I'm aware you've got this other call and things.
Thank you.
Your own creative outlet. So you mentioned obviously creative writing is a big thing for you. Do you get the time to do that for yourself? Do you do any of that for yourself? Have we got a collection of short stories? Or
so obviously I've done it all my life. I had communication difficulties as a child, and actually my business model is made by something that my mother created for me, where she put a notebook at the side of my bed and said, write to this fairy, and this fairy will answer back. I had a mental health issue from a very, very young age. Severe anxiety disorder debilitated my life from the age of 4. Wow. Very, very young. It wasn't social, it was environmental. And she said, write to this fairy, and the fairy will write you back. And it changed my life. And of course, this fairy was my mum sneaking in at midnight. It chokes me every time I tell this story. She would take this pen and paper. I would have written to this fairy, and with her left hand, she would reply.
Oh, wow.
Telling me not to worry, telling me that this is valid, etc., or why do you feel like this? It changed my life. I'm a working product of that, and that's what my business model is 30 years later.
That's so cool.
So I have always written, always. The more I facilitate, the less I write for myself. So I am an victim of what we're talking about here with the balance.
Yes, yeah.
But I love to dance and move. I love to sing, and I love to read, and I love to stare at an art gallery wall and think, what is this? So they're my creative outlets, and I think everything's creative. I think cooking's creative. I think doing a podcast and talking is creative. I think when I tweak my website, it's creative. When I do a photo shoot for my business, I'm thinking about the costume that I'm wearing, who I want to be. It's creative. And I try and tap into that creative nature of absolutely everything that I do. When I hold conversations at Stake of the Art with my colleagues, I find it creative what they're coming up with. I'm asking them I find their lives creative, their answers creative, even if they think they're talking to me about money and numbers. If my boss is sat there talking to me about money and numbers, I could speak to him for hours, because 1, he's teaching me, but 2, for me it's a creative language for him. And I just try and find everything to connect back to that, to try and enrichen my experience of being human. And what's beautiful is having a completely non-verbal daughter with mobility issues,
and global developmental delay. So we've got a huge range of disability within her. And I hold her and I move and dance with her.
Yeah.
And when I sing to her, I get through to her on a level that nothing else works. No sign language, no intervention, nothing. When I hold her and move with her and I sing with her, it's transformative for our bond, but also for her connection to my world and mine to hers. So I'm so grateful for what she teaches me, and that I'm able to continue really tapping into this play element.
Nice.
And this creativity to connect to life, and she's a driving force of that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's so good to hear.
Thank you.
Let me know when the book What the Fairy Said comes out.
Don't make me think of anything else to add to my basket. I am awful. Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, no worries.
God, all I can imagine is what it'd been like if I did that when I'd have written something and my dad would have just been like, "You're a dick."
I think that was the X-rated version that my mum would
Yeah. Definitely. Oh no, that's amazing. Well, it's been, we could talk for hours. And it'd be so good to catch up again. So, how can people find you? What's your
my Instagram handle is HJ, so the letters H and J _ Wellbeing Done Well. And that's my behind the scenes account on Instagram. If they want to contact me directly on an email or with any thoughts or anything, it's Hannah-Jayne at wellbeingdonewell.co.uk. And my website has more information on the community workshops, and just a little more about me is www.wellbeingdonewell.co.uk.
Amazing. Well, we'll put those in the show notes.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
It's nice to finally meet you.
Yes, so lovely.
Been seeing your Instagram posts for like 5 years now, so it's like...
I didn't put two and two together. I was like, oh shit, cool.
Everyone does the same.
It's so lovely to talk, and it's been so inspiring to listen to other artists. It just gives you that boost. So thank you so much.
Brilliant. No, it's been fantastic.
Thank you for your time. It's been really interesting.
Yeah.
Always.
So, I'll see you soon, and good luck with everything. I hope your meeting goes well.
Thank you so much, and Merry Christmas to you and Liz as well.
Oh, and to you. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see you soon.
Good to see you. Take care, guys. Bye, Paul.
So that was our interview with Hannah-Jayne. It was absolutely brilliant. We are going to sign off now, so you can find us by going onto Instagram and looking for Is That Art Pod, and this will finally be our first video upload onto the YouTube channel.
So you'll find that again at Is That Art Pod on YouTube.
Excellent. So all that leaves us to say is goodbye. Thank you for listening, and thank you for watching if you did for the first time.
Ciao.
See ya.